Welcome back to our daily scoop where the drama never sleeps. And today we have breaking news that will shatter everything you thought you knew about the Forrester and Logan dynasties because the unthinkable has happened right in the heart of Forrester Creations. Steffi and Ridge walking through those heavy glass doors early in the morning, expecting just another day of corporate warfare and fashion emergencies. But instead, they are greeted by a silence so thick you could cut it with a knife. And speaking of knives or sharp objects, we will get to that in a second because what they found on the floor of the CEO office is going to haunt my nightmares and theirs forever. RJ Forrester lying completely motionless on the cold, hard floor, surrounded by a sea of violently torn design sketches that look like white snow stained with the darkest red you can possibly imagine. Dead, gone. Just like that, RJ's dead. I can barely even type these words without my hands shaking because this is the golden boy of the Forrester family, the bridge between Ridge and Brooke, the young man who just wanted to design and love and live his life. And now he is a corpse in the very room where his grandfather built an empire. How does this even happen in a high security building like Forrester Creations? Did the security guards fall asleep or were they paid off? Because someone clearly wanted RJ dead and they wanted to send a very loud, very bloody message by leaving him right there in the CEO office. Yellow police tape crisscrossing over the iconic Forrester Creations logo is a visual I never thought I would see, but here we are. And the authorities have completely sealed off the entire executive suite, confirming what Steffi and Ridge already knew in their shattered hearts, which is that RJ was brutally murdered with a sharp object. Was it a pair of heavy fabric shears that some disgruntled employee just grabbed off a cutting table in a fit of absolute psychotic rage? Or was it a specialized weapon brought in by a professional hitman? Because we have to remember the recent timeline events involving Electra and those terrifying underground loan sharks. The police are swarming the building, taking statements, bagging up the torn designs as evidence, and you have to wonder what those designs were. Were they Eric's couture sketches that Bill Spencer was trying to steal, or were they RJ's own creations ripped to shreds to symbolize the destruction of the Forrester legacy? The sheer brutality of the act suggests a crime of passion, a sudden explosion of violent anger that left a young, talented designer bleeding out on the carpet while the killer slipped away into the Los Angeles night. Brooke Logan Forrester completely and utterly collapsing into a puddle of unimaginable grief is an image that will be burned into my brain for the rest of eternity. Hearing that your child is gone forever is a pain that no mother should ever have to endure. And for Brooke, it is 1,000 times worse because RJ was her ultimate triumph, her beautiful boy with Ridge, the physical manifestation of their destiny. And now he has been violently ripped away from her. I can just picture her falling to her knees, the breath leaving her lungs, a guttural scream escaping her lips that echoes through the halls of her mansion while Ridge tries to hold her together. But how can he hold her together when he is falling apart himself? She is going to blame herself. Of course she is, because that is what mothers do. They replay every single moment and wonder what they could have done differently. Should she have forced him to stay away from the office? Should she have intervened more in his feud with Will Spencer? Should she have never let him get involved with Electra and her dangerous underground connections? The guilt is going to eat Brooke alive, and I honestly don't know if her mind can survive this kind of trauma without completely fracturing into a million pieces. Ridge is a man possessed right now, and you can see the raw, unadulterated fury radiating off his skin like heat from a furnace as he stands over the police tape, vowing to find the killer at any cost. This isn't just grief. This is a primal fatherly rage that is going to consume every single waking moment of his life until someone pays for what happened to his son. Ridge has always been a protector, a man who uses his power and influence to shield his family, but he failed to protect RJ in his own building, in his own office, and that failure is mutating into a dangerous obsession. He is going to tear Los Angeles apart brick by brick. He is going to hire private investigators. He is going to leverage every single billionaire contact he has to hunt down the monster who drove a sharp object into RJ's chest. God help whoever did this, because when Ridge Forrester finds them, the police won't even need to make an arrest because there won't be anything left of the killer to put in handcuffs. He is looking at everyone with suspicion right now, his eyes darting around the room, analyzing every employee, every rival, every family member. And then we have Steffi Forrester Finnegan, who is standing there trembling, staring at the spot where her brother took his last breath. And the crushing weight of guilt is just suffocating her. She feels entirely responsible for letting the toxic feud between the Logan and Forrester families escalate beyond repair, because she was the co-CEO. She was the one calling the shots. She was the one who let the workplace become a battlefield. Steffi has been so laser focused on destroying Hope's new line at Logan, on fighting with Brooke, on managing Taylor and Deacon's messy romance, that she didn't see the real danger lurking in the shadows. Did the corporate warfare create an environment so hostile that it bred murder? She is questioning every decision she has made over the past few months, every harsh word she spoke, every time she told RJ to stand his ground against the Spencers. Finn is trying to comfort her, trying to be her rock, but how do you comfort someone who believes their ambition and stubbornness paved the way for their brother's slaughter? Steffi is going to spiral hard, and I wouldn't be surprised if she tries to resign from Forrester Creations entirely, because how can she ever sit at that CEO desk again, knowing RJ bled to death right in front of it? The police are not wasting any time, and their suspicion has heavily fallen on Will Spencer, which makes total sense on paper, but is it too obvious? Will and RJ just had a massive physical brawl, a shoving match filled with venomous threats, where RJ called Will a sleazy, greedy Spencer, and Will fired back that RJ wasn't even a real Forrester. The bad blood between them has been boiling over for weeks, all centered around their mutual obsession with Electra Forrester and the corporate espionage surrounding the fashion houses. Will has the motive. He has the Spencer temper running through his veins, and he was recently fired by RJ, which gives him the perfect revenge narrative. But would Will actually commit murder? Would he grab a sharp object and butcher his own cousin in cold blood, leaving him to die among torn designs? It feels too messy for Will, but then again, crimes of passion are always messy. And when you push a young man to the brink, strip him of his job, his girlfriend, and his pride, he might just snap. The police are probably tearing Will's beach house apart right now, looking for bloody clothes or the murder weapon, while Will sits in an interrogation room pleading his innocence. Dollar Bill Spencer is going to go absolute scorched earth when he finds out his son is the prime suspect in a murder investigation. Bill will circle the wagons. He will hire the most ruthless, expensive defense attorneys in the country, and he will declare an all-out war against the LAPD and the Forresters. Bill knows what it is like to be accused of things you didn't do, but he also knows what his bloodline is capable of, and deep down in the darkest corners of his mind, is he wondering if Will actually did it? No, he will never admit that he will project pure confidence and aggression, threatening to sue Ridge for defamation if he even breathes Will's name to the press. But this puts Bill in a terrifying position because the evidence might be stacking up against Will. And if Will goes to prison for RJ's murder, the Spencer legacy is completely destroyed. Bill will likely try to frame someone else, maybe even pay off witnesses to provide an alibi for Will, because that is what Bill does. He manipulates reality to protect his own. This murder officially marks the absolute final devastating end of any reconciliation efforts between the Logan and Forrester families. There is no coming back from a dead child. You can forgive stolen designs, you can forgive corporate espionage, you can even forgive stolen husbands and wives, but you cannot forgive murder. The line in the sand has been drawn in RJ's blood. Brooke is a Logan, but she is mourning a Forrester son, and she is going to find herself completely alienated from her own sisters if Katie and Donna side with Bill to protect Will. The family tree is snapping in half. Hope is going to be caught in the middle because she is working for Logan now, but she loved RJ, and she will be horrified that Will is the suspect. The Thanksgiving dinners, the Christmas gatherings, the awkward but hopeful truces, they are all gone forever, buried in the same grave that RJ will soon occupy. It is a permanent fracture, a generational trauma that will define these characters for the next decade. We have to talk about Electra Forrester because she is the epicenter of the hurricane that led to this tragedy. Electra is going to be completely destroyed by this news because she was the prize that RJ and Will were fighting over. She just recently broke away from both of them to start her own independent fashion label out of pure frustration and betrayal, but her actions inadvertently set the stage for this fatal confrontation. And wait, let me back up because there is a massive piece of the puzzle we are ignoring. Electra made a deal with the devil. She compromised with a dangerous underground force to get her fashion line off the ground, and she got tangled up with violent loan sharks. Did those loan sharks kill RJ? Think about it. RJ and Will had recently put their differences aside to team up and save Electra from these criminals. What if RJ was in the office late at night trying to figure out a way to pay off the mob? Or what if the loan sharks broke into Forrester Creations to send a message to Electra and RJ just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time? This loan shark theory makes so much more sense than Will randomly deciding to become a murderer. The sharp object, the torn designs, it all screams of a professional hit or a violent warning from the criminal underworld. The mobsters break into the CEO office looking for collateral or cash. RJ catches them in the act. He tries to fight them off because he is brave and foolish, and they pull a blade and end his life. The torn designs were probably them ransacking the office looking for the safe or valuable jewelry. If this is true, then Will is being framed, or at least wrongfully accused by a police force that is looking for the easiest narrative. But how do you prove that? How does Will clear his name when all the circumstantial evidence, the recent brawl, the threats points directly at him? And if the mob did this, then Electra's guilt is going to be astronomical. She will look in the mirror and see RJ's blood on her hands because her ambition, her desire to be independent, led her to make deals with monsters who eventually came for the man who loved her. Melissa Dillon is another casualty in this emotional war zone. She had just started exploring a passionate romance with RJ. They had shared midnight swims and stolen kisses, and she was finally feeling like she belonged in this glamorous world. Now she is a grieving woman walking the halls of a fashion house that has become a mausoleum. Dillon knows about the underground connections. She knows about Remy Price, her mysterious cousin who has a dark past. Could Remy be involved? Is Remy connected to the loan sharks? My mind is racing with a million different conspiracy theories because in Los Angeles, nothing is ever as simple as it seems. Dillon might have the key to solving this murder if she can just connect the dots between Remy, the loan sharks, and Electra's shady business dealing. But if she speaks up, she puts a target on her own back. Will she risk her life to get justice for RJ, or will she stay silent out of fear? What does this do to Brooke and Ridge's marriage? Tragedy can either bind a couple together with unbreakable chains, or it can shatter them into a million pieces. Right now, they are united in their grief, but grief is a toxic emotion that eventually looks for a place to assign blame. If Ridge starts publicly attacking the Spencers and by extension the Logans, Brooke might feel torn. She hates Will for what he allegedly did, but she also knows how manipulative Ridge can get when he is out for blood. If Ridge goes too far, if he starts doing illegal things to get revenge on Will, Brooke might try to pull him back, and that will cause a massive rift. You're defending the boy who killed our son. Ridge will scream at her, and Brooke will just weep because she isn't defending him. She is just trying to stop the cycle of violence. Their marriage is going to be tested like never before, and honestly, I don't know if they have the strength to survive the death of their child. Let's go back to the crime scene for a minute because the details are just so morbidly fascinating and terrifying. The torn designs surrounding RJ's body, I can't stop thinking about them. Were they his final sketches? Was he working late into the night, pouring his soul onto the paper, trying to prove to his father that he was a true Forrester designer? The killer didn't just stab him, they destroyed his art. They tore his legacy to pieces before they left him to die. That feels personal. That feels like someone who hated RJ, not just for his name, but for his talent. Will Spencer was always jealous of RJ's natural ability to design. Will is a business guy, a Spencer. He doesn't have the creative genius that RJ inherited from Eric and Ridge. Could that jealousy have pushed Will over the edge? If I can't have Electra and I can't have the talent, then you can't have your life. It is a chilling thought, a truly horrific psychological profile of a young man who let envy rot his soul. We haven't even talked about Eric Forrester yet, the patriarch, the man who built this company from the ground up. To outlive your grandson is a curse that no man should have to bear. Eric is already dealing with his own failing health, the betrayal of Donna, keeping secrets about Hope, and the stress of the Logan fashion war. This news is going to put him in the hospital. I can see him clutching his chest, falling into a chair in the Forrester mansion, tears streaming down his aged face as he realizes that the future of his company, the boy he mentored and loved, is gone. Eric might just give up. He might close Forrester Creations entirely. How can they ever host another fashion show? How can they ever send models down a runway when the heir to the throne was butchered in the CEO office? The company is tainted now. The brand is associated with blood and death. Hope Logan is sitting over at the Spencer mansion, probably feeling a sickening mix of horror and relief. Relief that she isn't at Forrester Creations anymore, but absolute horror that her half brother is dead. Hope always tried to be the peacemaker, the moral compass of the family, and she failed. She couldn't stop the feud. She couldn't stop Steffi's wrath, and she couldn't stop RJ from getting caught in the crossfire. Hope will want to reach out to Brooke. She will want to hold her mother and cry, but Brooke might push her away. Brooke might look at Hope and see a traitor, someone who abandoned the family to work for the very people whose son is now accused of murdering RJ. The psychological torture that Hope is going to endure is going to be intense. She might even turn on Liam if Liam tries to defend Will, because Liam is a Spencer and blood is thicker than water. The media circus surrounding this murder is going to be unprecedented. Forrester Creations is a global fashion empire, and the murder of the CEO's son in the headquarters is going to be front page news from Milan to Tokyo. The paparazzi will be swarming the building, swarming the Forrester mansion, swarming the Spencer estate. Every single employee will be interviewed by the press. The stock prices of Forrester Creations will plummet. Buyers will pull their orders. The business aspect of this tragedy is almost as devastating as the personal loss, because RJ's death might literally bankrupt the company if the board of directors panics. Ridge and Steffi will have to fight not only for justice, but for the survival of their grandfather's legacy, all while planning a funeral for a boy who died way too young. Steffi is not just going to sit back and let the police handle this. We know Steffi. She is a woman of action. She will launch her own investigation. She will use Forrester security cameras. She will hack into Will's phone. She will track down Electra's loan shark contacts. Steffi is going to become a vigilante because she needs to channel her guilt into something productive. If she finds out that Will did it, she might just take a gun and handle it herself. Steffi has shot Sheila before. She is not afraid to pull a trigger to protect her family or avenge them. The LAPD better solve this case fast, because if Steffi beats them to the killer, there is going to be a second body in the morgue, and Steffi will be wearing a chic black couture gown when she does it. At the end of the day, this is a story about the destructive nature of hate. The Forresters and the Logans and the Spencers have been fighting for decades. They have stolen companies, stolen designs, stolen lovers, but it was always a game, a glamorous, high stakes soap opera game. Now the game is over. The reality of their toxic behavior has finally manifested in the most gruesome way possible. RJ Forrester is dead. A bright light extinguished on the floor of a fashion house. The torn designs scattered around his body are a metaphor for the shattered lives of everyone he left behind. There is no happy ending here. There is no fashion show that can fix this. There is only grief, anger, and a desperate, bloody search for the truth in a city built on lies.